Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tao of Humaning, where we explore the physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual aspects of what it means to be human together. I'm your host, Dr. Christine, and I'm so happy you've decided to join me for today's conversation. In today's episode, I want to talk to you a little bit about timing and when is the best time to come and see a practitioner of Chinese medicine like myself. A lot of times people will come into the clinic and see me when they've already have an established diagnosis. A lot of times people will come in for pain is oftentimes a initial gateway for people coming into an acupuncturist and Chinese medicine practice. Women's health is another one. So cycle regulation, hormonal balancing, things like fibroids, PCOS, perimenopause and menopause, anything having to do with trying to conceive or being pregnant or postpartum, all are fantastic times to come and see someone. And what I was thinking about in conversation with a patient the other day was this idea of prevention as a way of caring for the body. And I know it seems like such a simple, of course, concept. And really, I think traditional Chinese medicine has the most beautiful lens of looking at the body and care. And so, at its very foundational root, traditional Chinese medicine is a preventative medicine. It really is utilized best when people come in before things have really established themselves to a point where there's a diagnosis in the body. And that's a tricky thing to get across in a short conversation with someone because a lot of times I'm meeting people that are already in pain or already have something going on in their body that they want support with, right? And then they come in and we can do a series of care, address whatever it is that they need support in. And then we're starting to have that conversation of, okay, this shoulder pain is resolved and, we've been working on your digestion and your sleep, right? And then if we continue care for another month at a weekly basis, then we can get you to a place where you're coming in maybe once a season for like a tune-up and to make sure everything's continuing to hold that pattern of being able to have the body operating on its own in the way that is most optimal, right? So a lot of times we start care after things have already been established as a pattern in the body. It's not bad. Acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine can certainly help with those things. And really starting to use Chinese medicine as a preventative tool can really help to ensure that the body is going to be as balanced as possible. And it can correct for things, like we talked about in an earlier episode, can correct for things when there's still a whisper. And, when you have a little bit of shoulder tension, right, before it becomes like a fully strained neck, for instance, or shoulder. Or, when your cycle starts to go out of balance. Or, when your sleep is really, you start noticing that you're waking up in the middle of the night and it's always at 2:00, right? Like that's significant for a practitioner of Chinese medicine. And we can step in at that point, right? And restore restfulness and restore full flow through the meridians of the entire body so that there's not stagnation and pain. And yeah, I think there's several reasons why people don't think of this. One, I think, is that it's not talked about as often. It's also really common to, when you're putting yourself out in the world as an acupuncturist or doctor of Chinese medicine, you're wanting people to think of you for a certain thing, right? So prevention obviously is not going to be super marketable in the sense of coming top of mind for people. But I think it's becoming more so. I think what started me wanting to do this episode was some conversations that I've been having around, a lot of people are looking for functional medicine or integrative medicine. And those are two things that people will search out, asking friends and family, like, hey, do you have a good functional medicine practitioner? And then I'll say, well, what do you mean by a functional medicine practitioner? And they're like, I don't know. Sometimes they're like, I'm not sure. I want them to do, some different kinds of tests. And I want them to, at the end of the day, what I think they're saying is I want someone to look more deeply at what's going on in my body. I want someone to listen to the symptoms that I'm experiencing in my day-to-day, which is Chinese medicine perfectly. Because we do want to address sleep every session, digestion, we're looking at energy and mood. All of those things are very front and center for a Chinese medicine practitioner. But I think when people are looking for integrative or functional practitioners, what they really want are those key things of like someone to look deeper, someone to listen, and someone to make sense of what's going on in their body, and then for someone to give them a plan. And to me, we'll talk about this in another episode in more depth, but to me, this is like Chinese medicine bundled up into one thing, into one description, right? Like that's what we do every visit. And yeah, I think some of it is that educational piece. I think some of it is financial. I think it's hard for people to think about preventative care when things are going really well in their body, right? When they feel really good, you're less likely to think like, oh, it would be a great idea to go help maintain this goodness, right? And I was thinking about today's conversation, and, it really is caring for our body is easier to maintain a healthy state in someone's body than it is to correct something that is out of balance. And what that looks like long term is actually less money spent because you're correcting things at an earlier stage, right? And usually treatments are going to be less intense. There's just so much goodness to taking care of our bodies on a regularly maintenance kind of a way. I was thinking about cars, and I was thinking about how, it's common knowledge that our cars need oil changes every, 3-ish months. So kind of once a season, right? Depending on your driving, of course, but about once a season, we know we're going to have to bring our car in. We're going to have to get it tuned up, essentially, right? Our bodies are the same. If we want our bodies to be functioning optimally, we don't want to wait until it's running on empty and really in a lot of pain and discomfort before we start to course correct, right? And some of it is education. I want to talk more about how these things are possible and specific examples and things for you guys to understand and see. But I think today I wanted to set this, kind of a bird's eye view and having this conversation of there is a different way. Like we don't have to wait until things are super wrong in order to get care. And I was thinking about a patient the other day who, for example, was expressing their frustration with their insurance provider and being able to get the care that they and their doctor had determined was the best care for this person. They were looking to get on a GLP-1 and, kind of that ideally, doing all the right things already, eating well, moving, healthy habits in this person, and their weight was still not lowering. And they had a lot of, risk factors and things with their doctor, and they were like, okay, let's get you on a GLP-1. Okay, great. Submitted it to the insurance company, and they were like, actually, we need you to do 6 months of this nutritional program that you can do through your insurance. We need you to do that first before we'll approve this. Okay, that's a reasonable request, right? And a cool service to offer for free. So they went and did that. They did 6 months of this nutrition program diligently and had similar results as what they were experiencing before, like felt good, and their habits were not the problem to begin with. So they weren't seeing as much progress as they had determined was needed. And so they went back to the insurance and said, okay, it's been 6 months. Now it's, time. Let's get this person the support with the medication. And the insurance company was finally like, okay, we'll do it. And so they got on it. They felt great for 2 months. And then this was the end of a calendar year. And so the insurance was resetting at the beginning of the next year. And what happened was they changed the BMI requirements for the GLP-1 coverage on their insurance. And so it kicked them out of that coverage range. And so now, even though technically on paper they were obese and they had risk factors and, all of these reasons why a period of time on a GLP-1 would have been really supportive for them, they weren't able to actually get that care anymore. And they were just, coming in and sharing the frustration of like, oh, like I did, it took 8 months of back and forth to be able to get on this thing. And then I finally got on it and I was feeling great. And then ultimately they felt that they were being told that they had to be more sick in order to get this care that would actually prevent them from, long-term reducing. It really would have reduced all-cause mortality, right? Reducing heart disease risk, reducing diabetes risk, reducing right? Long-term, this would have been less expensive for this patient to be able to get this kind of preventative care, right? To move them out of the obesity range and into what's considered a healthy weight for them. And, that's something where I feel like our culture in general, like we tend to wait until something is really, it has to be, we're trained that like something has to be really wrong. We have to have a concrete diagnosis of something before we can move forward and get care. And that's not always the case, but I do see that often enough that it has flagged something in me that I'm just like, wait, this is not how I was trained, right? And this system of medicine is really one that listens early on in your symptoms, and it really looks at how you feel every day and how your body is functioning every single day. And of course, we look at labs and we use that as a guide, right? We might have slightly different ideas of what's an optimal range than another provider. And at the end of the day, we're going to keep going back to how are you feeling? Like, how do you wake up in the morning? Do you feel energized? Do you feel a little slower to start? Are you like, can't count down the seconds or can't wait until you get the coffee right into you? Those are all useful data points for us in terms of caring for you and being able to get you to a place where you fall asleep easily. You stay asleep throughout the night. You wake up feeling relatively rested. All of these things for the moms listening are relative to the age and sleep of your children. And, even within that, we want the rest that a mom of young children where the sleep is still a bit disturbed, we want that sleep that you are getting to be able to be as restful as possible, as nourishing as possible, right? And really looking at everything within the context of your particular life. So sleep is a big one. And then, how you fall asleep, stay asleep, how you wake up, what times do you wake up in the middle of the night? Are you using the restroom in the middle of the night? All of those questions mean something different to us and create a pattern. Same with your digestive system. Like I'll ask people, how is your digestion? And they'll say, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, everything, right? Like, how's your appetite? Like, do you get hungry? Do you crave anything in particular? Do you have a desire to eat? Because sometimes people will feel hungry, but there's no desire to eat, right? Do you have gas, bloating? how are your bowel movements? We talk about poop a lot in my clinic. Or with your acupuncturist, you'll know we talk about poop a lot. We talk about periods a lot. And a woman's cycle health, we'll get into this more and more, but a woman's cycle tells us so much about her overall physiology. And in fact, I could ask a woman about her cycle, and I could probably predict with pretty good accuracy what her sleep and her digestion are like and what her moods are like, only by asking her about her period. And, these are, I always tell people, like, your life is like Thursday afternoon car line, right? Like how we feel emotionally, physically, mentally, how we feel on a middle of the week, middle of the afternoon day, like that's our life, right? And I see so many people feeling frustrated because they are getting their annual labs done and they're being told that everything is in the normal range, and their fatigue and joint pain and back pain and all of these things that they're experiencing are just normal parts of aging. And I would argue that that does not have to be the case. And so I think for today's episode, I really just wanted to stress that how you feel every single day matters. Of course, it's normal to have ebbs and flows throughout life and changes. And overall, there are supports for you to help you sleep better and to help you feel less affected by stress, to help you feel less anxious, to help you feel more resourced, to help you feel happy, grounded, and just all the things, right? Like there are resources before things become a diagnosis or before things become really cumbersome and heavy. You can get support to feel better before then. And so if you know someone who has been struggling, or if you yourself has been struggling with any of these kind of day-to-day things, finding a Chinese medicine practitioner is so valuable. And if you're listening in and you're around Orange County, California, of course, I would love to be the one to support you. I also do offer telehealth, and all of the things are located in the show notes. You'll be able to find me if you want to send me a message. I would love to hear from you. And I see so many of you are listening in, and I am so grateful and appreciative. And it really, really helps my work get out to new people. If you hit subscribe and like or leave a comment, any of those things really do help the magical algorithm to send my work to new people. So I really appreciate that too. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.